PlayStation 2 titles. Let's head back to the good old days when the PS2 was the king of the consoles. Although Sony has created several incredible next-gen devices over the years, those who remember gaming on the PlayStation 2 will know exactly how wonderful the times were back then. There were so many fantastic games to choose from, and really set the standards high for the games to come. Let's look at 10 PS2 titles that'll give you a rush of nostalgia. Starting off with number 10, Soul Calibur 2. This arcade-to-console port by Project Soul was a perfect fit. Initially released as the sequel of the first, of course, it has a 2 after its title. On the Namco system, Soul Calibur 2 really needed to be on other platforms as well, because of how good the game was. It was by far one of the tightest, prettiest, and most fluid fighting games of its day, and even today by many. The sequel improved on everything its predecessors did right, while introducing a bunch of new stuff along with it. Soul Calibur 2 was loved throughout because this was the first of the series to appear on a PlayStation console. The original Soul Blade made the leap from arcades to the PlayStation in the mid-90s, but the first actual Soul Calibur could only be played at home on a Dreamcast. By the time Soul Calibur 2 entered to reach other consoles, both hardcore and casual fighting fans were eager to enjoy this arcade favorite on the PS2, and the Project Soul did not disappoint. Next up, at number 9, we have Psychonauts.
You're late, soldier. Now get in here and give me 20. From this day forward, you are all...
So Psychonauts is a severely underappreciated game, which is why you'll probably see it on many overlooked games you need to play list all over the internet. But I got to tell you, when I say Psychonauts, you really need to play it. I'm really not messing around. Starring the physically gifted Rasputin Raz Aquato, the game sent you packing to several wonderful locations where you'd ventured into the minds and nightmares of their residents. Every level in Psychonauts played by its own insanely creative rules. Combining Double Fine's strange sense of humor and rebel game design and memorable characters, Psychonauts was a shining example of what the studio could produce when left alone with its own space and without an extreme budget.
Dream was true. Lily, they stole Dogen's brains.
This is an honest-to-goodness psychic emergency.
I wonder.
Following Psychonauts, we have at number 8, Resident Evil 4.
Sit freeze!
Vaya por detrás.
What are we gonna do, Leon?
Resident Evil 4 will probably be remembered as a game that fortified the series with its shortage of true actual zombies, while also keeping in mind the innovation of its over-the-shoulder third-person camera, and so many other positives. We'll need another episode to talk about it completely. Getting to the really important part, which is the game itself, it was just honestly fun to play. Its aiming mechanic made shooting angry villagers in the face of so much more satisfying than the combat on previous Resident Evil titles. To also add the evergreen melee combo attacks that let you shoot a guy in the leg and then roundhouse him into a crowd of angry infected, this game truly influenced nearly every third-person shooter that came after it. When I think back on it, the mechanics makes me grin, and remember several incredible combat moments that really defined the game. And that's exactly what makes it worth playing, no matter what the system.
I'm coming for you!
Next up at number 7, we have Bully.
You're quite the nastiest little boy I have ever encountered.
Okay, I'm frightened. And I've got a weak bladder.
Another legendary PS2 game that has garnered so much controversy over the years, but still remains as one of the best games ever made. Bully is probably one of those titles that many had to play in hiding. It's hard to imagine a game that's been acted against as much as Bully did, and the strange thing is that it still is even now. It did an expert job of taking Grand Theft Auto's free-roaming mentality and using it to create an incredibly compelling, character-driven game about being trapped in a hostile school environment. I'm guessing that's the sole reason why the game is so controversial. It also helped that, unlike most real kids who are the targets of bullies, protagonist Jimmy Hopkins was a bruiser with boxer fists and superhuman strength and stamina, which allowed for really fun situations, like beating up the entire football team at once. It still gets me laughing even now. It wasn't GTA, but in some ways, it was a whole lot better.
That's just school spirit. Come here. You're a degenerate. To think I trusted you.
You're a pig! You've ruined my life!
Devil May Cry has seen some serious overhauling iterations over the years, but one has to remember its roots. The original first DMC is a gem of a retro game. The first installment in the series came out way back in 2001, and Capcom was really excited by the attention it garnered then. Control-wise, the setup is a major improvement over the stiff control scheme of the Resident Evil series. Everything moves smoothly, with a dead-on response to your button action. As for the story, you play Dante, obviously, a private investigator of the supernatural who is seeking revenge for the death of his mother and brother. Dante, of course, is no ordinary man, and with his father's sword in hand, he must enter the demon realm and avenge mankind. DMC is one of my favorite series. It's so great to be revisiting the roots of this series.
Let's rock, baby.
Next up at number 5, we have Beyond Good and Evil. This has to be one of the most overlooked games of all time. Beyond Good and Evil is a true gem when it comes to PS2 classics. An incredibly ambitious game, Beyond Good and Evil should be appreciated by every gamer, even if some of its ambitions fell short. Its playstyle was reminiscent of the Zelda series, and the story followed Jade on her search for answers as a war broke out around her. Jade was a photojournalist for an underground network countering the massive propaganda of the residents on her planet, who were secretly allied with their supposed enemies. Though it got a little predictable in the end, kudos to BG&E who put so much on their creativity very few AAA games had before. The gameplay backed it up almost all the way, and the theme of the storyline is what really brings out the best in this game. Now at number 4, we have Silent Hill 2.
I don't know why, but I just love it here. It's so peaceful. You know what I heard? This whole area.
Easily the best in the Silent Hill series, Silent Hill 2 has nearly everything you could ask for in a psychological horror game. From an eerie suspenseful atmosphere, disturbingly absurd enemies and imagery, and a mature story that surpasses most of the Hollywood's horror or suspense movies, the game manages to deliver all the scares of the horror genre while still being intelligent and subtle venture about love, personal guilt, and misogyny. Not to mention the fact that you will still quiver in your seat even when you play the game after all these years. There aren't many games that have touched on so many taboo topics as this game does. Several dark issues from child abuse to mental illness are a part of the overall stature of the game, but somehow never seems in bad taste. The game has earned legendary status and is a must-play for all horror game enthusiasts out there. Coming in at number 3, we have Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater.
I didn't. I'm loyal to the end, to my purpose. What about you, Jack? Loyalty to your country or loyalty to...
Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater was a unique step forward for this PlayStation legendary stealth series. Like all of his other games, this one stands out as a classic on the PS2 solely because of its narrative-driven continuation of the story from previous MGS titles. A 1960s set Cold War story starring Solid Snake's near-identical father, Naked Snake, also known as Big Boss. It moved the action into a vast jungle. The set forced you to manage your camouflage, kill animals for food, and heal your wounds with field surgery. the stuff that you get to see oh so often nowadays. I have a feeling that this game introduced these mechanics into modern gaming as a whole. The stealth gameplay was top-notch, as was the emotionally wrenching story built around many unforgettable and hugely iconic boss fights that once again paved the way for many other games to implement these techniques. For all those reasons and more, Snake Eater is arguably one of the best MSG titles out there, in my opinion.
Assassinating the boss.
World was once one. We will heal that rift and make the world.
Now at our top 2 on this list is the God of War.
The gods of Olympus have abandoned me. Now there is no hope.
Once a captain, Kratos.
Santa Monica's God of War was an absolute smash hit debut back in 2005. It was a complete package, and I believe it's quite easily one of the best games on the PS2. The gameplay is gripping, and the story is incredibly good. God of War's control and combo scheme is as much a work of art in the game's presentation, which rivals any Hollywood action blockbuster epic. The game features puzzles that are incredibly clever and well integrated. There aren't many other hack-and-slash adventures with great features like the ones of this game. This as well paved the way for many other action games to implement techniques and mechanics such as these ones in the years to come. A true PS2 classic, God of War's stylish, gory, and challenging action gameplay rewards you for skill and persistence. Let me just mention this again. This quite easily is one of the best action titles. Heck, it's probably one of the best games to be released.
Of lost souls.
And with such a weapon, I could defeat Ares.
With the box, many things become possible.
I will find Pandora's box, and I will use it to see him.
Now at our top 1 on this list of 10 best PlayStation 2 titles is the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. What an incredible game! San Andreas is probably one game that I will never forget. This game is right up there in the Hall of Fame as one of the greatest games that have ever existed. So if we look back, Vice City improved on GTA 3 in every way, but Grand Theft Auto San Andreas widened the scope to even greater limits. You didn't just have a city to explore, you had an entire state. That's right, the map was complete with little towns and long stretches of wilderness, generous with interesting geography to drive through. This laid the building blocks for GTA 4 and 5 and propelled it to be one of the most popular game series of all time. You weren't just some Mafia errand boy in the game either. You were Carl C.J. Johnson, a fully well-written character with a family, a personality, and the need to exercise and eat, to bulk up or slim down accordingly, unheard of features at the time. More than just a crime game, this was a full-on criminal fantasy simulator that began with petty street gang wars in Los Santos and eventually reached the bizarre heights of stealing a jetpack from Area 51 on the orders of a CIA drug pusher. This had reached the pinnacle for one of gaming's most defining series. The game is so fantastic, people still play it even after 16 years. Insane!
Down. We'll be right over.
Oh shit, here we go again. Worst place in the world. Rolling Heights baller country.
That's it for our list. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for more of the old-fashioned gamer, and we'll see you in the next one.